They need to be punished. That 6 Premier League clubs have to be punished fiercely and harshly by the Premier League. The integrity of the Premier League is at stake here. We need to see action. We need to see appropriate action. That's points deductions. There's no other form of punishment acceptable for them 6. Now, I've seen a lot of talk saying that you can't punish the fans, you can't punish the players, and I agree with that part. But anyway, before we get into it, hope you're all doing well. I've been away for a couple of days, been busy the last couple of days, hence why I've not done a video yet. I'm a bit late to the party, but I thought it's worth having a chit chat anyway because it's such a big topic, and it's one that on Sunday completely consumed me. When the statements come out and that, I was up till God knows what time, I couldn't sleep. The irony is the European Super League was living rent-free in my head on Saturday night. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'm aware there's talk and rumours for years and years about a Super League, but I never thought it would actually happen. And to be fair, I'm right, it won't happen. It's all but done now. But it got a lot further and a lot closer than I ever anticipated. And I was surprised by the way that the 6 Premier League clubs went about it, and the other 6 as well from European leagues, that the fact that they came out with the intention of going and playing it. I never thought it would even get to this point, so I was completely surprised by it. Not surprised by the blowback, not surprised by clubs backing out of it, especially when you were only needing one team to go first, and Manchester City was that side, and that's because they don't need the money. The other clubs all could do with that 300 million they were going to be getting, but Man City can get by without it. They can generate a profit without that money. So it was no surprise to see them go, and as soon as they went, that was it. The rest of them were in trouble because it's a domino effect. The whole thing was built on a house of cards, and it didn't take a lot to expose that. And fair play to the fans for that. But for the integrity of the Premier League, they need to throw the book at these 6 clubs. Points deduction is the only acceptable form of punishment as far as I'm concerned. There's no point fining Man City. They've just pulled out of a £300 million league competition because they don't need the money. Yes, it's because of the blowback of the fans, but had they been in a situation that Spurs are in, money-wise, with the stadium paid for, the Bank of England loan, they'd probably be a bit more reluctant to withdraw so soon. But City didn't have to hesitate. They were able to say, actually, we can afford to get out of this competition. We can afford to get out of this PR mess that's going on. And they did. Points deduction has to happen. Now, I'm aware there's a lot of people watching this thinking, well, you're a West Ham fan, you're going to say that because then you qualified for the Champions League. Well, it doesn't even have to be this season. The points deduction can start as of next season for as much as I care. It's not necessarily when the points deduction comes around. It's a level of punishment that's thrown at these 6 clubs. It's important that they make a statement here, the Premier League. It is absolutely important because what we have to show is that if you did leave the Premier League, if you did go play this European Super League in future or now, on you go. But don't expect to come back. We will survive without you. Because I've seen a lot of people saying football is dead on Sunday. I couldn't think the opposite. I thought, no way is football dead. No way is even the Premier League dead. If them 6 clubs left, let them leave. We'll get 6 clubs into the Premier League. The Premier League would have continued. Would we miss those 6 clubs? Oh, absolutely. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that those 6 clubs are not massive football clubs, that they aren't important to the way the Premier League is today. And they are. But if they left and 6 clubs replaced them, they wouldn't be important to the Premier League next season. It would still run. There would be a big reset in the Premier League. Clubs would suffer financially. West Ham would probably suffer financially. The level of interest in the Premier League would come down a little bit, and therefore the money in the Premier League would come down a little bit. However, the clubs like West Ham, Everton and Leicester, they've already committed to spending Premier League level money as it is today. So we would have lost out financially a little bit, but it would never have been dead. We would have survived. The Premier League would have been fine. It would have carried on. And it might have actually been a mini reset button that the Premier League needed. But go back to the point about points deduction. It has to happen. Like I said, it doesn't have to be this season. They can start next season on minus 10, 15 points, whatever it is. But it's got to be harsh. Now, there's been a lot of calls by pundits and that saying you can't do a points reduction because that's punishing the fans and the players and they're not at fault. And I agree with the latter. Of course they're not at fault. It's got nothing to do with them. They didn't choose this. They didn't want this. Quite the opposite. They wanted to stop this. They've helped stop this. And those fans should be applauded for that because it's taken a collective effort from football fans around the country, around the world to stop this going through. We've had leaders among the fan bases such as Gary Neville and the way he's gone about it has been fantastic, and he's been a real leader, if you like. He's been the one that's got the the protests going, so on and so forth. And you've needed someone like that on the big stage to do it, because we saw, Klopp, I thought, bottled it a little bit before the game against Leeds. I thought Klopp bottled it, which was a shame, because there was a massive opportunity there for him to come out and do what James Milner did after the game. James Milner came out and said, I don't like it, I don't want it. And that's all that he needed to say. He didn't have to go into reasons why. He completely opposite. He said it's for the reasons everyone else is talking about. That's it, we move on. And I was hoping Klopp would do something similar, and he sort of tiptoed around it and tried to sort of suggest that, he obviously didn't know about it, which is fair, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more of a bigger statement from him. So sometimes people in the mainstream media, whatever, can sort of step back a little bit because they need to protect their business interests. Klopp's employed by the man that's taken him into the European Super League, so I can understand why he would be a bit hesitant in order to speak out against his employer, because the consequences for him could have been harsh. But anyway, points deduction, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely has to happen. But the one thing that's irked me a little bit is the way that Sky Sports have gone about this, because Sky Sports is part of the reason. I've always, for those that are longer viewers of Hamish Chat will know, I always refer to that 6 clubs as the Sky Sports top 6, because they used to be the top 6, but they're not anymore. They are now what I call the Sky Sports 6. And Sky have helped create this monster. Sky have helped promote those 6 clubs, and I understand why. They bring in the biggest audiences, and Sky is purely about getting as much people watching Sky Sports as possible. It's purely about driving subscriptions to the Sky Sports model. So of course they're going to use the likes of Man United and Liverpool to broadcast their business and that, their marketing. Why would you not use them? But in doing so, they've helped create this monster, and this monster got out of control. And then all of a sudden, Sky, a little bit upset by it all, and I just think, hang on a minute, you've sort of groomed this monster. You've caused this monster to grow and grow and grow, and it's got so big that even you can't control it anymore, and it's got out of control. The cage is open and the monsters come out. And I just think that Sky is partly to blame for this. Everybody has got their own share of blame for this. Ultimately, it comes down to the owners for making a decision, but without everything else beforehand, whether it's Sky, fan bases, and so on and so forth, the offer to join the Super League would no longer be there. There was jokes about how Tottenham got in. How did Tottenham get in? Well, we know why. Audience. They got in purely for bringing in the audience, because the European Super League would love to have the North London derby there. Well, it would have been quite often. And it wouldn't be right. I'm not saying it's correct, but that is why they invited Tottenham along, because they need Tottenham. They need the Premier League clubs in there, because they pull in the biggest audiences, and audiences drive sponsorships, which drive revenue. And it was quite an expensive business model that they had to afford. But for Sky Sports to all of a sudden pretend that they care, it's a bit too far for me, because especially, well, if they care so much about the fans and that, let's see if they then bring down the prices of the subscription model. I don't think they will. Why would they? So their care only goes so far, and that is when their own business is at threat. Because it would be interesting to see if this Super League went a little bit further, if Sky would have entered the bidding for the broadcasting. I assume not. Okay, I assume not. And I'm a little bit sceptical that should Sky Sports had started broadcasting European Super League, if some of these pundits speaking out about it, not particularly Guy Neville in particular, just in general, if they all of a sudden would be a bit hush-hush because they're all of a sudden getting offered jobs as pundits to commentate on these games, which you'd imagine would be pulling in massive audiences worldwide. The European Super League itself, I couldn't think of anything worse. I love watching. I still tune into Liverpool v Man United whenever it's on. It's not been a great fixture over the last few seasons or whatever, but I still tune in because it's one of the rivalries I like. I enjoy watching it. It only happens twice a season. It might happen in the Cup or something. Liverpool played Real Madrid. I was looking forward to that. If Man United drew Inter Milan or something, I would look forward to that. I certainly don't want to watch those games every week. The reason they're good to watch, the reason I, as a neutral, tune in is because they only happen domestically twice a season. But Real Madrid played Liverpool for the first time in about 15 years or something. That's what makes it special, because it doesn't happen very often. And there's a good product here, but they almost ruined it. And I just hope that this At the start I said that this might have generated a small reset button for the Premier League. I hope it does to some extent. I hope there is still a mini reset button and the values and ethos is recalculated, if you like. It's no longer driven purely by the pound note. But what it does do is shows that fans do count, because too often we get shown how much clubs make profit, even if you take away the match day revenue, so on and so forth, because of the sponsorships, which is fair enough. But today, I just feel like there was a small victory for the fans, a massive victory for the fans this week. And I have no doubt that part of the reason that this Sky Sports 6, this European Super League 6 wanted to join, not so much Man City and Man United, but the reason perhaps that Tottenham and Arsenal would have fancied joining, because I do think they are threatened by the likes of West Ham. They're threatened by Leicester City, Everton. Last season Wolves come close to it. Sheffield United came up from the Championship and went close to European football last season. The only way they can leapfrog the likes of those teams, the only way they can go back to being the regular top 6 of the Premier League is by improving. And to do that, you need money. And they don't have lots of that at the minute. And I think they're possibly threatened that what they consider to be the top 6 is no longer the top 6. And I think next season, I'd be shocked. I would be genuinely 100% surprised with that top 6. Those 6 teams that wanted to join that Super League finish in the top 6 of the Premier League. I don't think they will. I think the likes of Leicester City are there to stay. I think the likes of West Ham are here to remain contending. I think the likes of Everton are going to continue to improve. Villa are going to continue to improve. Tottenham and Arsenal, I think they're going to continue to feel threatened a little bit. And the way they could have fixed it was by generating an extra 300 million a year, just like that. I can kind of understand why they did it. The beast that Sky Sports have created is under threat by the way that Leicester and West Ham have organically grown as a football club. And that's a far, far better way than joining a Super League. Anyway, I'm going to just shut up and I'm going to disappear. If you've enjoyed this video, drop a like on it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll catch you in a bit.